Want to know who we like for Monday Night Football? Maybe some barking dogs this week? Is the Deli back open? And we know VR is going to bring you all of that information from the wise guys. NFL Week 5 is up next on Bet On It. To the right of me, we've got Marco D'Angelo. You guys know him as Marco in Vegas. We got Yanni Corrales. You guys know him as the Greek Gambler. I call him VR. Back in the day, Vegas Runner. And I am Kelly Stewart. This is Bet On It, the NFL edition, specifically Week 5. We're going to get right into it here with Thursday Night Football. San Francisco, boy, oh boy, has this one gotten out of control. Up to 6.5 here on the odds logic screen at the Rams. VR, the total's sitting here at 46.5. Talk to me about this NFC West matchup.
Yeah, and the reason I wanted to touch on this game as the TV game is because it makes it easy for a handicapper and a sports bettor. Because you look at this betting line right now, and you only have one option, and that's, do I like San Francisco catching 7, or is it a pass? Because you can't bet the Rams. The Rams in this spot is just not a good bet. Only because if you don't have that ticket in your pocket already, you're buying at the absolute worst time. And regardless of outcome, that's just not a good way to do this. Because a week ago, they were minus 3.5, 4. Then you had a couple days to bet them at 4.5. You had a few days to bet them at 5, 5.5, 6, 6.5. So again, once it gets to 7, a key number of 7, the bet becomes easy. It's either a dog or pass situation, because we're not going to take the worst of it with the Rams here, which I think is obviously an inflated price coming off of their win compared to San Francisco, the way they looked. But I just think this line's now a little bit too inflated. Like eventually it gets to a point where it's an overreaction. And I think that's what we're looking at right now, because prior to Purdy returning, San Francisco was actually outperforming the betting market. There was supposed to be a big drop-off, and that just didn't happen. They ended up, winning at New Orleans. They ended up beating Arizona by 1. Then he returns, loses, and all of a sudden, all those cluster injuries compounded have just forced bookmakers to keep moving this line. And that's just them trying to protect themselves against risk. But again, there's not sharp bettors out there laying the 7. The only shot you should be looking at the Rams is if it gets to 7.5. Then you want to look at the teaser. Then that makes sense on betting the Rams. If I see 7.5 or 8 across the board, but where it sits right now at 7, again, I'm forced to either bet the dog or pass. And personally, I think there's a little bit of value on this dog in San Francisco. Divisional game, they're going to show up. Usually the market overreacts to what players are worth. I think that's happening right now. And again, you have a Rams team that's coming off impressive win against Indianapolis, and now it gets to play at home again. This line's just too high. For me, it's dog or pass. I don't know if I'll be on San Francisco, but I do like the Niners a little bit. And like I said, though, if it goes above a touchdown, I'll probably look to the possible teaser spot for the Rams. But for the pick for the show, it's San Francisco plus the 7, and see how it does.
Speaking of teaser spots, this is an interesting one. Sunday Night Football, New England is 7.5 at Buffalo. Marco, 49.5 here as the total.
Yeah, Kelly, no question. There's going to be a ton of Buffalo teasers in this game. The books are going to need New England come Sunday, but we got to handicap the game as it is. And you go back to last week, Buffalo was in a major flat spot. They were coming off their first 3 wins of the season. They beat Baltimore in a come-from-behind win. Then they had 2 division games against the Jets and Dolphins, Dolphins being the last one on Thursday Night Football. And you're coming off all of that, and then what do you got? You got the Saints coming to town. And, nobody's, striking fear in when the Saints come marching in. But that's exactly why, free play Sunday morning, I gave out the Saints. That was a horrible spot for Buffalo, sandwiched between two primetime games, the Thursday night game against Miami and this Sunday night game against another division rival. So you saw a lackluster performance. How many times do I tell you when you get these big favorites that have that lackluster performance? And I know the final score, they almost got there. But, Kelly, I know anybody that had them in Survivor got a little worried there in the third quarter when it was a 4-point game and the Saints had the ball. But then, things righted the ship and they ended up getting the win, but not the cover. And that's all we're about, is who covers. We don't care who wins. We care about who covers, and the Saints got the money. You'll get a focused effort from Buffalo this week. And I expect them to put up points. I know New England's coming in here off of scoring a ton last week, but when you score 42 and your opponent's Carolina, that doesn't impress me. And I know they also scored 33 earlier in the year against Miami, and we know Miami's had their problems. But what I'm going to point out is, they had two high-scoring games, but what about the other two games? They were held to 13 points by the Raiders and held to 14 points by my Steelers. And the Steelers' defense has not played that well this year. So I don't think they can trade points in this game with Josh Allen. He'll be focused. It's a division game. It's a TV game. We get the best of the Bills. There's only one way I can play this game. That is with Buffalo. And yes, I like Buffalo minus the points, but I may have a couple teasers as well, Kelly. As you know, those teasers have been doing very well.
Yes, they have. We're going to talk about them here in the Steam segment with VR. But first, we got to talk about Monday Night Football. Kansas City is a 3.5-point favorite at Jacksonville, total 46.5. And honestly, I could have went dog or under here. I kind of went back and forth. Teddy and I do the opening line report here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel on Monday mornings. And I said, Teddy, what is going on with this line? What am I missing here? Jacksonville, I believe, was Marco's barking dog last week. And we were both on them in that spot versus San Fran. I think we were both on Kansas City, if I remember correctly, versus the Ravens. And hey, look, I don't want to take away from what Kansas City was able to do for me last week. I appreciate getting to cash that ticket and get another win in the contest. But let's look at kind of the inverse there. The Ravens, well, there was a lot of injuries that started to pile up there. But I'm going to give the Kansas City defense a little bit of credit. They were able to stifle Lamar before ultimately he left the game. On the other side of that, let's look at the Jacksonville defense and what they've been able to do. So look at the metrics. Both these teams really tight. And ultimately, I wanted to make a case for Jacksonville. I wanted to make a case for the under. I'm giving you guys both here for Monday Night Football. But for the show, I'm going to give you guys the under. I found this stat. I think it was from our good friend Ralph Michaels. I don't know. I read a lot of things come Wednesday. But unders, Monday nights, 83, 35, and 1 since 2016. If you guys are looking for this pattern, Monday night road favorites of 1 to 10. That is the Chiefs and Jaguars this week when the line is less than 50 points. And just over the last 5 years, it's 3 and 21. That is 88% to the under. So I'm going to take the easier route here, instead of betting against the Kansas City Chiefs, because I don't want to hear it from the comment section, give me under 46.5 here on Monday Night Football. VR, you're up next here with the Steam Room. But first, got to do it. I got to ask you guys to give us a little bit of love here, whether it's in the comment section, whether you want to give us a like or get that thumbs up so you never miss another moment here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. VR's Steam Room. He's given us information, actionable info to use as part of our handicap. Get your pens and papers ready because I'm going to let my guy go.
All right. And a little early in the week, but already getting down on some NFL, especially on those look-ahead lines. Pay attention to those. And as I touched on week in and week out, and then look at the odds logic screen on Monday and see what the adjustments are made after that. Because again, the look ahead lines, the limits are low. With that said, let's dive right in. Start off with 463 Miami at a pick'em, 469 Denver plus 4.5. Denver +4, steamed them while the Monday night game hadn't even started. They were betting Denver against the Eagles. 472 New Orleans at a pick'em and -1. 479 the Lions. They steamed the Lions last week, got the money. They came right back and laid 10 with the Lions and went over 49. Talk about getting out ahead of the public on both of those. 475 Tennessee from +9.5 all the way down to +8. They laid the 3 with Seattle. And finally, New England Buffalo under 50 on that total. So already some NFL action for this week. But Sunday we'll be in the steam room in that final hour, going through each and every game, side totals, props. And of course, 15 minutes before kickoff, we tie in those teasers that are now 8-1 heading into this week.
So VR, my partner Chris and I in the Survivor there at the Westgate, and I were talking about this. He sent a text to John Murray and goes, "Who bet the Titans?" And I said, I have a feeling I'm going to find out tomorrow who bet the Titans. Can you tell me what the steam is on the Titans here? And should I be a little concerned maybe holding an Arizona Survivor seat?
No, it's good two-way action as far as the betting public goes. I think it's a case of a team getting shut out like Tennessee did last week. There's nothing more embarrassing than that, especially in an NFL game, not being able to put up, any points at all. Usually going to be some recency bias attached to that. I think that's what you're looking at here. And also was above that 7. But personally, Kel, I'll be looking to tease Arizona down. Because I don't think this is going to get down to 7 across the board. I'd be surprised. If it got down to 7, I'd be a little worried on that Arizona Survivor ticket. But as long as it stays above a touchdown, I wouldn't be too concerned. Again, the teaser protection opened up at 9.5, but that sharp money came in on Tennessee. And I think it is the result of them getting shut out and, the overreaction because of that shutout. And I just think they concluded the lines a little bit too high. And based on power ratings, I think it is. I mean, obviously Tennessee's the worst team in all of the NFL power rating wise. But still 7.5, so 8 is a lot of points to be giving them in this spot for Arizona. So I could see why they took the points, but I think you're safe with your Survivor pick.
All right. Speaking of those teasers, Giants, Cardinals, Jets, Bills, Commanders so far on my list for this week. I do not have my odds logic screen open, so I apologize if any of those have moved since. VR, let's talk about these teasers because I thought the Jets were going to really hurt me there on Monday night. They backdoored those teasers once again. Yeah. If we're looking for these teasers, right? Well, actually, you know what? Here's a great one. I got a tweet yesterday from a guy saying, Kelly, X major sports book is offering 10-point teasers. And I said, what's the juice? And then he's sending me screenshots and I'm going, you're laying -120 on 10-point teasers, huh, bud? That is a pretty wild thing. So I want to kind of talk about some teasers here, what people should be looking for. Again, I know everybody in the comment section hates it. I say I have -110 teasers with a guy. I'm sorry. Ask around. Ask your local guy if he'll give you -110 teasers. You'd be surprised what you guys can get at your disposal. VR, kind of talk about the math there and what people should be looking for. I know laying more than -120 on a 6-point 2-team teaser is unacceptable. -120 on a 3-point 10-point teaser, I thought was a little egregious.
Yeah, but we're simply looking to lay 6-point teasers and trying not to lay more than 120. I know it's hard to find these days. But like Kelly said, it is out there, especially with a lot of the credit outs, 125 at worst. Because here's the thing, if you're teasing numbers and looking to place plus EV teasers where you really don't care about who the team is, you simply want to place plus EV bets where you have the edge, there's one thing you got to do. You got to tease through the numbers 3, 6, and 7. And doing that at even money gives you a 5% edge. Doing that at -120 gives you about a 2.2% edge. Doing that at -125 maybe gives you a 1% edge. Anything greater than that, you no longer have the advantage. So it's no longer advantageous to tease. It's I can't put it any simpler than that. where if you're laying more than 125 for a 6-point teaser, you're better off straight betting both. Long term, your results will actually be better not taking those extra 6 points and laying that juice than if you just break up your 2 bets and split them right down the middle at minus 110. I promise you, you'll do better long term. Also, sometimes the books will have odds that are off. Like if you see a 3-team 6-point teasers at plus 180 or better, there was a time where you were getting plus 180 on 3-team 6-point teasers. That was the exact equivalent of getting even money on a 6-point teaser. So on a even money 2-team teaser. So you still had that same 5% edge. But again, it's all going to come back to what they're paying. If they're not paying plus 180 or better on a 3-team 6-point teaser, again, it's not advantageous. So the best advice I could give you, keep it to 6 points, keep it to 2 teams. Don't lay more than 125. Tease through 3, 6, and 7. Those are simple rules. They're guidelines that we've stuck to. We don't break them, and they produce good results. I urge you to wait until closer to kickoff because you want the line to be efficient. That's when totals cash at the highest clip because the game lands close. And you do that, and you should be able to make money in the NFL. It really is that simple, Kel. But you got to stick to the rules. Like you can't, there's sometimes it's borderline. Just let it go. That's what I've been doing lately. Had a lot more discipline, and the results have produced.
Just because our good friend Prez there on Last Call Monday night with Joe Madden said 2's a dead number. And I thought, I think you're wrong there, Prez. I made a phone call to our good friend Ralph Michaels. So on the Mega Show or on his TNA segment, he's actually going to break down the key numbers for you guys. Guess what the 5th key number is now?
2.
It's 2. Sorry, Prez. Marco usually gets to throw the shade on this show, but I'm throwing some shade this time. So definitely check out that TNA edition because I specifically asked for, since moving the PAT back and what we've seen since then, I want to know what the new key numbers are. Different things come into play every single year as the league changes their rules. Thus, key numbers are going to change. All right, guys, barking dogs have been great, except for the Colts last week. Thank you guys for that one. Oh, well, it is what it is. Marco D'Angelo, you were on that one as well. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away from a gambling perspective because I was against the Rams and then the Rams gave me one right back. Or maybe A.D. Mitchell did since he decided not to drop that 12-ounce football about on the half-yard line in for a touchback. Okay, I'm done. Barking dogs. Marco D'Angelo, you got to go first. Tell me.
Well, I'm not done. I want to bitch more about Indianapolis. It wasn't only the drop touchdown when he's crossing the plane. The same player was the guy called for the holding on the long Taylor touchdown run.
Yeah, you're right.
He took 2 touchdowns off the board. But we're still okay, Kelly. There's only a couple minutes left in the game. The Rams are getting the ball. They're going to drive down and kick a field goal, right? We're getting 3.5. No. You know what the Colts did? They only had 10 men on the field for that blown coverage. Did you know that? Yeah, that was fun, losing that one. But hey, that is all part of it. There's been one gut-wrenching loss each week in the NFL, and that's why we love the NFL. Because as you say, Kelly, for every team that wins that shouldn't have won means somebody that should have had a loser got a winner, and they're happy. We're not. So it'll come back around. We got some in the gambling gods bank that they owe us later in the season. But for this week's show, for the Barking Dog, I've got Denver. VR talked about it already, and this is a team that if my mic suddenly goes silent, that's only going to be because our producer does not want to hear what I'm about to say. The Eagles are 4-0, but guys, let's be realistic about it. They don't look like the same Eagles team that won the Super Bowl last year so far. Maybe that's that, hangover effect, the fat and sassy from winning the Super Bowl last year, but they've won their 4 games by a combined 20 points. Now, you got to give them credit. They have played a tough schedule thus far. They opened up against Dallas. Granted, Dallas is not a good overall team, but they're a division rival. They got an explosive offense. They played them on that Thursday night game. Then you played the Chiefs, who were playing with Super Bowl revenge. Then you played the Rams the next week, who had playoff revenge as well. Those were big games for those opposing teams. And then last week they had to travel to Tampa Bay. That could have been the spot that they lost. They got out to a big lead, and then Tampa comes storming back and made it close late. Sooner or later, one of two things is going to happen. Either Philadelphia is going to put together a complete game and blow somebody out, or their luck is going to run out. And I'm going to go with the luck running out this week. My concern with Philadelphia has been the last 2 weeks. Where did the running game go? 174 yards on 59 rushing attempts. That's under 3 yards a carry. That is not the Philadelphia team we saw last year. Remember the year that Barkley had. Now, we can't expect him to have that same year this year, but come on. You've got Jalen Hurts and Barkley in that backfield, and you can't run the football. Philly has a divisional game on deck. Now, granted, it's only against the Giants, but it is a division game. Giants always get up for them. And when is it? It's on Thursday night. Always got to look ahead to see who these teams are playing, especially look to see who that Thursday night game is. All right. This is a spot where Denver, although they were underachieving so far this year, they finally got things put together last week. Yeah, granted, they played Cincinnati. Bo Nix finally had a breakout game against the poor defense. But I have an old saying with the horse racing, sometimes when your horse hasn't been doing well, you need to regain its confidence. You drop the horse in class. He can't read a program. He doesn't know that he's playing an inferior foe. Hopefully nobody told Bo Nix that was only against the Cincinnati defense, and he has another good game against the Eagles this week. I think that Denver can shut down that running game. They've held 3 of their 4 opponents this year so far. They shut down their running games. Given the tough schedule that Philly has played so far and that divisional game on Thursday, I think it's a tough spot for the Eagles. I'm going to go ahead and call it, and this is where my mic goes dead, I'm sure. Denver 24, Philly 20.
Ooh, that's going to be an interesting one. We're going to see how Bo Nix responds. If he doesn't turn the ball over, Marco, I think you may get to cash yourself a ticket. VR, you and I have some small dogs this week. Well, Marco's is pretty small too. I love when we have those bigger dogs here in the NFL, but this week is kind of just one of those gross cards.
Yep.
And I don't love a whole lot. We were kind of talking off air. Finding 5 for the super contest or circa is going to be absolutely brutal. But give me your thoughts here in terms of teams that can win outright. Who do you think is barking this week?
Well, I got to look to Washington. And I'm biased towards the Chargers. Like, I have a Chargers season win total over. I have a Chargers future to win the Super Bowl. So I want the Chargers to win football games, but this is just a bad timing game for Chargers and perfect timing for Washington, because Washington doesn't have any problems on the offensive side of the ball. It really doesn't matter. I'm telling you now, who's at quarterback. In fact, if you look at passing success rate, which is one of the highest correlations to winning, Jaden Daniels has been below the NFL average so far this season, and Mariota's been above it. In fact, the highest quarterback rating so far for Washington has been a game that Mariota was the quarterback in. So the drop-off just isn't there to warrant the adjustment to the point spread, regardless of who's at quarterback. Coupled with all the injuries on this San Diego side offensively, the weakness of Washington's on the defensive side of the ball. But when you have an offensive line that's as banged up as the Chargers are, that's going to take a lot of pressure off of this Washington defense. Like, if they're able to pressure the quarterback, something that they've been able to do against more stellar offensive lines, then that's going to relieve a lot of the pressure on their linebackers and in their secondary. And that's exactly what Washington needs right now. So again, the timing is perfect for them to go into San Diego and get a out of conference win. I think the Chargers offense is starting to come back to life after that first week or two. I mean, they were going to regress. It was an outlier kind of box score. So that was expected. Again, I like the Chargers as a whole, but I just think this week does not set up well for them. And I do like Washington, who's being overlooked here. I think this line should be closer to a pick 'em. You're giving me 3 points, key number. Give me the Skins and sprinkle that money line.
All right, and I'm going to take the ugliest dog on the board, and that is the New York Jets. We just saw them on Monday night have to backdoor their way into the teaser spots. I will thank them for that. But reality is they're a pretty good fourth quarter team. Let's look and see what they've done over the past 4 weeks, and that is they come out of nowhere. We saw it against the Bucks as well to finally play late. Now, we could argue that the Dallas Cowboys are doing the exact same. They started off absolutely dreadful in that first quarter versus the Packers. And then next thing you know, the game turned on its head. They were up at halftime and they ended up in a 40-40 tie. I woke up at 3 a.m. like, what just happened? I did kind of feel bad for Survivor backers because I've had that tie before. And that's not any fun. Just lose the damn game outright. That being said, I think Dak Prescott's playing at a very high level right now. 72.9%, right? That is his completion percentage. Almost 280 passing yards per game. I do think this is a good team, but they're just laying a measly 2.5 points at the Jets. I think we need to kind of look at this one right here. And remember, now we're asking them to go on the road and just beat a Jets team that is kind of licking their wounds from a divisional spot here on a Monday night. The Cowboys are good, but that defense is easily exploitable. Just ask Caleb Williams. Give me the Jets plus 2.5. Give me the Jets in teasers. And, while we're at it, give me the Jets on the money line.
Jets, Jets.
Oh, love to hear it. Love to hear it. I know. And then I'm going to be posting the Bart Simpson meme here in just a little bit. I will not bet the Jets. I will not bet the Jets. Yeah, I know how Sunday is going to go for me, but I do think the Jets get a win here. Marco D'Angelo, speaking of wins, the Deli has been absolutely electric. If you guys are watching the Mega Show, which is our college football show and NFL show combined here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel, we just made it nice, easy packaged for you guys. You got the extra Deli over there. You got Ralph Michaels TNA, and of course you got Stock Watch, or you can just search for Marco's Deli here on its own. It will be up earlier in the week for those insiders. That's right, $2.99. You can join the Wager Talk Insiders, wt.buzz/insiders. Marco hitting at a nice clip here in the Deli. We've got NFL Week 5 underway. And this one's an interesting sandwich spot because we saw them open up as a dog, and now they're a favorite.
Yeah, Kelly, and here's the thing, look out. The New York Giants are undefeated with Jackson Dart as their quarterback, and everybody's all excited in New York. Just pump the brakes, okay? We were all over the Giants last week. All of us here on the show loved the Giants because it was about the spot. The Chargers were in a horrible spot last week, and they had to travel cross country after sweeping their 3 division rivals to open up the season. And they were on the road for the 3rd time in 4 weeks. And it was a cross country early start on the East Coast. Yeah, that was a perfect storm for the Chargers to get the job done. Now it's the Giants in a bad spot. They're coming off that win and they got to go on the road. Okay. And granted, I get it. It's the Saints, or should we call them the Aints? But come on. They opened up a favorite, which was ridiculous. How could you make the Giants a favorite on the road? And 2, have you looked at the schedule? Well, I talked about it in the last segment. The Giants have a monster game on deck. They got to play on a Thursday night against their division rival, the defending Super Bowl champs, Philadelphia. Now, you've got a rookie quarterback coming off his first win, and I will give them credit. Even though he didn't set the world on fire with stats, there was a certain swagger to the team that they didn't have with Russell Wilson. And down the road, this might be their quarterback. But this is a bad spot. You're coming off your first win, and now you got to go on the road in a game where the line is virtually a pick 'em. You got to win the game to cover. No, I don't want any part of that. I don't want a rookie making his first start on the road in a bad scheduling spot with a big look-ahead game, and make that look-ahead game on a short week on a Thursday, a TV spotlight. That's going to be the rookie's first nationally televised game as an NFL starter. Yeah, no, give me the Saints. This is all about the spot. And I know when people leave the comments, when we do the Deli and that, they're always going to point out, how can you take a bad team? Well, that's the whole premise of the show. We're finding the spots where ugly teams can prevail. Okay. We know, we say it all the time. The spreads are the great equalizer. The situations are the great equalizer. This is a spot that screams to take the Saints, just like it screamed last week to take the ugly Giants. Go with New Orleans. They get their first win of the season. New Orleans 23-17.
All right, Marco, I'm going to ask, because you know that the comment section loves when I talk about Survivor. And I think people do like it. I know you guys all complain, but if you like the Survivor talk, let me know. Our producer, Dan Alexander, had the audacity prior to starting the show, says, I think I might take Saints in Survivor. And I said, are you insane? You just said you think the Saints are going to win. Would you burn a Survivor pick on them?
I would not burn a Survivor pick. I can lose, a 1-unit bet any day of the week. Okay. That's part of the cost of doing business. You're talking about something that your whole season is on the line with, one of your entries for the Survivor. Now, if you want to talk about it, Kelly, from game theory aspects of things, and this is something that, I got into the conversation with your partner from last year in Survivor. And I said that, if your goal is that maybe if you're later in the season, how people talk about, oh, well, the perceived value of your entry is X because of how the number of people left. It is not. Not every entry that's left with maybe 4 weeks to go is worth the same amount of money. Yeah, if you divide the number of entries by the prize pool, there's a dollar figure. But it depends on what teams you have left. If you're able to use teams like the Saints earlier in the season, it makes your entry worth way more money later in the season, because that means you've got some better teams still left in your arsenal that if you did try to sell that, you could command more money on the market for selling it.
All right. And there's your handicapper answer. I don't, there's just no way. There's no way. Not with the Bills, with the Lions, with the Colts, with the Cardinals, all these other teams that are at your disposal. And VR is smiling because I'm looking at the script. So we're just going to go right into it with best bets because you also like the Saints. So VR,
I swear on my mother's life, I didn't know Marco had that for his sandwich. In fact, I was going to use Denver as my dog, and I noticed he had Denver already. I chose a different dog. I didn't see it on the Saints. I remember I did it late last night. I got back from the UFC, and I liked the Saints. I gave them out to my subscribers at a pick 'em immediately. I thought this was a great spot. Remember, I was big on the Giants. They were my dog last week. They were a big bet for me for subscribers. I thought the sprinkle was warranted because I thought the spot was really good for them. But this is a terrible spot, and I don't want to waste the viewers' time because Marco nailed the handicap perfectly. You got a rookie quarterback coming off a historic win for the team, getting them their first win of the season at home. And now he's got to go on the road against a winless Saint team in dire need of a W that already has shown the splits. They play a lot better at home. Just look at their point differential at home compared to what it is on the road. If you're ever going to back the Saints, this is where you want to do it when they are playing at home. And I think it's a good spot for them with Neighbors being lost for the season as well. I just don't think it's going to be an easy afternoon for the Giants, who got the pressure off of them. Like, not only did now you got your new starting quarterback, which is the youth, but he even got hurt. He's a little banged up from what I saw. Like he's listed even as questionable because of the hamstring. So you got a Jackson Dart who's not even 100% now going on the road. Again, he won the game. He managed it well, but he threw the ball only 20 times. He had 111 yards passing. He just didn't lose the game. He didn't go out there and win the game. He just didn't lose it. Eventually, you're going to have to win football games. And on the road, that's kind of what you have to do. I don't see that happening. I like the Saints. Again, I won't waste time. Just rewind everything that Marco said. I second it. And even power rating wise, I think it makes sense. Just give me the Saints at home, man. I just don't lay the 3. Bet it now. Lay the 2.5. Don't lay the money line because the money line is a little bit too high. We laid it when it was like 110, 115. But right now, you're better off laying the 2.5 with the New Orleans if you agree, or sit back and maybe you'll get 3 if you disagree.
All right, guys, right now you get $500 off a 1-year pass. That is just $125 a month. Plus, we're going to give you a bonus coupon for any additional purchases, 25% off at wagertalk.com. For a limited time, right now you get $500 off a 365-day all-access pass from your favorite handicapper. That is all their sports released. Any 5% best bets, 365 days of action for about $125 a month, which is about $4 a day. Just wanted to throw that out there before we went to Marco D'Angelo for his best bet. Marco, what do you have going on at Wager Talk right now?
Well, Kelly, we had a big week last week. From Thursday through Monday, we put up a 9-4 mark for our clients. We're going to have a 5% this weekend. College, I said it in the other show, 7-1 on our 4% and higher. NFL's winning. We had a 4-1 Sunday. Would have been 5-0 if it wasn't for those freaking Colts. But let's, I'll take 4-1 anytime you want to dish that out. We'll do that. And then we came back and won on Monday night as well. So it was a good week all the way around. Join me, don't forget, we talked about the long-term package, but Kelly, there's another package going at Wager Talk this week. We've been running it the last few weeks and it's been such a success. We're bringing it back. Weekend Warrior, $49. You can pick your favorite handicapper, get all of their plays Saturday and Sunday in football. And if that capper has a Monday night play, you'll get it free as a free bonus as well. Just $49. Check that out. And it even includes the 5% plays. And you know those 5% plays sell for $35 by themselves. So it would be silly not to buy the $49 deal. For my best bet, Kelly, we're going to head to the great Northwest and we're going to look at the Seattle Seahawks. And Kelly, when you look at this one for Tampa Bay, we always talk about, travel situations and everything else. This is the longest road trip that there is in the NFL. That is either going from Seattle to Tampa or going from Tampa to Seattle. Bad spot for Tampa Bay. And I got to tell you, this Tampa Bay team, they are a gritty team. They're 3-1. Their only loss came last week to Philadelphia. Their 3 wins were all come from behind fashion, and they almost did it for a 4th week in a row last week. They fell way behind the Eagles, made a charge in the second half, and almost got there. I know Philly backers were getting a little nervous there in that 4th quarter, but they ended up losing by 6. Seattle went on the road last week. It was a hard-fought division game. They had a big lead and almost blew it. But they did prevail on Thursday Night Football. Now they've had a couple extra days to prepare for Tampa. And I think given that added rest, given the schedule that Tampa Bay has played so far and the tough games that Tampa's had and had to come from behind, I think this is just a bad spot for Tampa to go on the road. I also feel that this is a Seattle team that's kind of flying under the radar. They have yet to allow an opponent to score more than 20 points this year. Now, granted, some will question their schedule, but they have held 3 of their 4 opponents to under 90 yards rushing. The only team to top 100 yards rushing against them was San Francisco in week 1. But you know what? To get to that 119 yards rushing, the 49ers had to rush the ball 36 times in that game to do it. I also want to point out that this is one of those spots, we talk about it, it's a phrase we like to use, lose the same game twice. Tampa Bay played host to the defending Super Bowl champ Philadelphia Eagles last week. They lost a game in close fashion. Are they going to come out maybe a little bit flat this week? Possible. That's what I'm looking at. But here's what I'm going to look at. Seattle's 3-1. The winner, both teams are 3-1. The winner of this game is going to come out of this 4-1. Scratch your head with that one. Last week we joked about when we talked about the Baltimore Kansas City game when both teams entered that game at 1-3. 1-2. We said one of those teams was going to come out 1-3. Nobody would have thought that. Well, nobody would have thought that Seattle could come out of the season and start 4-1. And I'm just going to point one thing out for all of the people that have badmouthed Sam Darnold. And I know that the last 2 games of the season last year tarnished the year that he had. I'm going to point this out from the beginning of last season through this season. As a starting quarterback in the NFL, Sam Darnold is 17-4 the last 21 games. Think about that. How many NFL quarterbacks have a 17-4 record? I'm going to go ahead and take Seattle at what I think is a low number here. I think the value is with them. Let's take Seattle, lay the points on Sunday. I've got them winning 31-20.
All right. As if we have not talked about the Colts ad nauseum, the Colts are my best bet for this week in the NFL. I was on them last week. Marco has went over all of the reasons why that they lost that football game. And it is gross. That's not a fun way to lose. But you know what could also be worse? You could lose like we lost Las Vegas last week. Do you guys remember that? 54-yard game-winning field goal blocked. Yeah. Ashton Johnson looked like Bo Jackson, and they lost the game outright. Now, for the 3rd time this season, they get ahead east in an early morning kickoff. Remember, they already played New England, which they squeaked out a win there, and then they got whooped up on by Washington. Here's the reality. Geno Smith is a liability. This man is a turnover machine. This is absolutely disgusting. Even when they had the number 5 offensive success rate last weekend and the number 2 passing success rate, they still could not win a football game. I know Indianapolis and Vegas has been a closely contested series in recent years. And the Raiders won as a 3-point road underdog, or they had a 3-point win, in 2022 as an underdog. But this is the reality. This is a much better Colts team. And if those 2 touchdowns don't get called back last week, they go into LA and beat the Rams. The Colts are going to bounce back after last week's loss. And I think this is an absolute buy low spot for them here. Keep in mind, 6.5, not 7.5. I know a lot of people are thinking it's a little fishy, but it's not. I'm also going to take the Colts in Survivor this week. I know I'm going to do a little bit of Cardinals, but I'm going to do a lot of Colts. I think this is a spot to utilize them to get the win here at home. Not only the win, but of course the cover for you guys. All right, let's bring back in Marco and VR to say goodbye. We appreciate you guys watching us here every single week on Bet On It. This has been the NFL edition, week 5. And there's your recap graphic that you guys love so much. And of course, if you guys missed the college football edition of Bet On It, you can catch it right here. And if you want to watch the mega show, it's going to be right here. That's right. You're going to get your TNA, your Stock Watch, and of course, your Deli. Until next week, guys, let's bet on it.
Back for another great week of NFL TNA. I am Ralph Michaels. This is the Bet On It TNA edition. Welcome. It is Wednesday, October the 1st. We're talking about games this weekend. We're going to break down NFL margins of victories. How important are getting those key numbers? We're going to look at totals by month as the calendar changes to October. What to expect historically from NFL totals broken down by grass and artificial turf. And as always, we're going to finish with 3 strong NFL systems applying to teams playing this week. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Let's get right to it. This one is actually a request by Kelly in Vegas. A couple of our guys on a couple shows were talking about key numbers and if they've changed. And there is a lot of information on this chart. I do want to let you know that I will be tweeting out this chart on my Twitter. That is at Cal Sports LV. Therefore, you can take the time you need to dive into it. Now, you see this chart has two parts. On the left-hand side of the chart are the margin of victories from 1 point down to those games that were determined by 29 points or more. On the right-hand side, you'll see I went back to 2015, and then since 2022. Why did we go to 2015? That's the season they moved the extra point back. Remember, extra points used to be automatic. So the margin of victories really did significantly change post 2015. First, let's take a look at the left-hand side of the column. You see the top three are highlighted. A 3-point margin of victory, 14.6% since 2015, 14.7% since 2022. But take a look at the number 6s and 7s. Going back to 2015, 7 finished 1.5% higher. Looking at to the right since 2022, they are exactly the same. 68 games have finished at 6, and 68 games have finished at 7. When I broke down the reasoning why, can I come up with a legitimate reason? I think I can. In the last several years, we have many more new young head coaches that believe in analytics. How many times in the fourth quarter do you see teams, if they're down by 14, they automatically go for 2 points to try to cut it to 6. And then if they score the game, again, they have the opportunity to win the game. That 6 number is very important. We see many more people when they're up by 14 going for 2. That's the reason I truly believe that since 2022, there are many games that have finished at a 6-point final versus a 7-point final. Now let's look at the right-hand side. These are sorted by the most occurrences. Well, again, since 2015, you see the top 4 numbers are 3, 7, 6. All of those wins by 29 points or more, and then 14 and 10. But take a look at the right-hand side and look just how different it is. Ignoring the games of 29 plus, 3, 6, and 7, the top 3. But then 1 is significantly higher than it was. 5 is significantly higher. Again, 5 people consider it a dead number. With all the missed extra points, 5s and 2s are now relative. You see the 2s are at 4.9%. So take a look at this chart. Determine how important it is to get a certain number. You always want to shop and get the best number, but might this chart take you off a game that moved a half a point if a lot of games have finished on that number? Or if you're looking to buy a point, this chart will tell you exactly how many times each team won by what margin. Situation number 2 is also a chart. We're looking at NFL totals by the month and by turf. Now, this is one that, again, makes total sense to me. Let's look at artificial turf. This is back to 2015 again. In September, artificial turf, 45% over under. That means 55% of the games have been over, 45% have been under. October, it gets above 50%. November, slightly below 50%, but still at that mark. And then in December and January in the regular season, those are positive over numbers. So September is basically 45% over under on artificial turf. The rest of the season, over 50%. But more importantly, let's look at the right-hand column with grass. In September, grass games have gone over 51.3%. October, it goes down to 46. November, basically 46. December, basically 46. Why is that important? Well, remember, the calendar changed. We are now in October. When teams are playing on grass fields in September, we have premium conditions. We don't have nasty weather. The grass has grown all winter, spring, and summer long, and it's strong, and you get good footing. But we get to October, we start getting more winds, we start getting more inclement weather. The fields start breaking down, especially those stadiums like Pittsburgh that host both college and NFL teams. So again, from October through December, basically 46% over under on grass fields. Is that going to mean you're going to play every grass field under game? No, but do be careful. Later in the year with bad weather, make sure you are looking at the turf as grass fields break down and we see many more unders than overs, again, since 2015. Before I get to our three final systems, I want to thank everyone that was on board for last week's Weekend Warrior. What a special that is. $49 for all of my college football on Saturday. It includes all the NFL on Sunday. And if I have a Monday NFL play, it is included as well. What have I done in college football? I finished number 2 last year. Since the start of last year, I am currently number 2. I am 14-7 this season in college football. That is 67%. And guys, I have a Friday, mark it down, a Friday college football 5% play. What are my college football 5% plays? Well, I did lose one, but I've lost one college football 5% in the last 10 plays. I am 9-1, 90%. Make sure you're on board for that big Friday 5%. For you Weekend Warrior fans, let me tell you this. College football in the NFL, number 2 over the last 2 years. College football and NFL plays rated 4% and higher, 25-6, 81%. And NFL teasers rated 4% and higher. I cashed last week. I will have another one this week. How about 9-1, 90%, and 16-2, my last 18 teasers rated 4% or 5%, that is 89%. 3-day all access, only $69. Weekend Warrior, only $49. WT.buzz/RM. System number 1. Teams off a division win by over 3 touchdowns during the first 5 weeks of the season. They have gone 34, 15-2 to the over. That is 69% over since 2009. That applies to one game this week. It is Houston and Baltimore. So Houston was off a big division win. We're in the first 5 weeks of the season. That is a 69% overplay. Before I get to system 2, one favor, hit that like button. If you learned one thing, that's all we ask. Hit the like button, leave a comment if you want something added. It helps our algorithms. It helps us to continue to provide you all this free video content. And make sure you're following Wager Talk TV. Over 300,000 people follow Wager Talk on all the social media networks. You should be part of it. System 2. Yes, this is ugly. Tennessee has been horrific against the spread since the start of last season. But I want to make you aware, winless away dogs from October on. This goes all the way back to 1991. So we're past the first 4 games of the season, or at least the first 3 games of the season. But winless away dogs from October on, 117-65. That is 64.3%. Again, going back to 1991. One team applies, the Tennessee Titans. And finally, teams off a win as a dog by 17 points or more. And now they are a favorite or a dog to +8. And it's the first 6 weeks of the season. So early season win, you were an underdog, you won by 17 points or higher, you are now a favorite or a dog to +8. This is a fade situation. Those teams have not done well. They are 55-89, 38.2% against the spread since 1989. This applies to fade the Kansas City Chiefs. So system 1, Houston, Baltimore over the total. System 2, plug your nose. Tennessee is ugly, but the system has cashed 64.3%. And it is a 62% fade against Kansas City, system 3. Grab my weekend warrior. Follow me on Twitter at CalSportsLV, and I'll be back next week for some more NFL TNA.
So when it comes to just the tip stock watch, I grade myself on a 5-week window, the next 5 games. Schedule sometimes comes into the equation when a team's going to be a favorite in a bunch of those games, or if a team's going to be a dog in a bunch of those games. It can get into my thought process. But the specific game this next week isn't normally a big factor for me. This time, it is, as I sell the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jags are off back-to-back wins, including an upset win at San Francisco last Sunday. They could easily be 4-0 if you remember the 4th down pass interference call on Travis Hunter that cost them the game in Indy against the Colts. They've won the other 3. That being said, they could also easily be 2-2. They got a key penalty against San Fran that was pretty iffy, and that kept the touchdown drive alive last week, a game they won by less than a TD. That said, they're 3-1, and this week they face Kansas City at home on Monday Night Football. If they beat the Chiefs on Monday night, remember there's only one game this week, so everyone's going to be watching, and they go to 4-1, this power rating number is going through the roof. If they lose, the markets aren't going to crash on them. Still a 3-2 team, no shame in losing to Kansas City. So now's the time before this Chiefs game to decide that we're going to sell the Jags. And of course, after Kansas City, who do they have? Seahawks, Rams in Europe, at Raiders, at Texans. At least 3 of those 4 are tough. So really, 4 of the next 5 are tough. And much like last year, I'm still not convinced this Jacksonville team's all that good. You know, they've gone 3-1 versus the Panthers, the Bengals, the Texans, and the Niners when San Fran was banged up. You know, that's not a who's who of great teams so far this season. 5.3 yards per play on offense, 5.1 yards per play allowed on defense. Okay numbers. You know, offensively they're below average, defensively above average, but nothing dramatic there. And yet I'm reading these articles. Liam Cohen, he's doing everything right. Travis Etienne's averaging 6.1 yards per carry, best in the NFL. Stop, okay? Etienne's the same back he's always been. Trevor Lawrence is the same mediocre quarterback that he's been throughout his career. And in fact, some of his numbers are worse this year. 5.9 yards per pass attempt, the lowest of his career. 4 picks in 4 games for Trevor Lawrence. The receiving core still isn't great. You know, tight end Brenton Strange is the leading receiver right now. That's not great. Brian Thomas is quitting on plays. Travis Hunter, you know, is he a bust already? He's certainly not an elite pass catcher right now. There's nothing downfield for Jacksonville. The offensive line is banged up. Multiple injuries last week. So what's up? How are they 3-1? Turnovers, my friend. They had a punt return touchdown last week, but it's mostly been turnovers. Last year, for the season, the team got 9 takeaways all year long. This year, through 4 games, they've had at least 3 in every game. Their 13 takeaways leads the NFL by a wide margin, and that's not going to happen forever. You can turn over Jake Browning. You can turn over Bryce Young. I don't see that same success in winning the turnover battle against Patrick Mahomes and Matthew Stafford and Sam Darnold the next couple of weeks. So let's fade the Jags, sell high, buy low, and it's a time to sell a team that's 3-1, but isn't that good.
We've got barking dogs that hopefully keep on yapping. We've got some of those top 25 matchups, best bets. Maybe the Deli's back open. And of course, VR is going to bring you that college football steam report. College football week 6 is up next on Bet On It. Kelly Stewart joined by VR. You guys know him as Yanni the Greek, Marco D'Angelo at Marco in Vegas. And of course, I am Kelly Stewart. This is Bet On It College Football Week 6. And outside of the losers named Arizona and Kentucky, I'd say last week was pretty profitable, boys. So we're going to try to run it back We're going to start off with these top 25 matchups. In VR, you are up first. A game that I have on my radar, number 16, Vanderbilt, catching 10.5 in Tuscaloosa versus the number 10 Crimson Tide, 56.5. How do you think Alabama is going to respond after beating their arch rival, Georgia?
Yeah, and I think many believe the narrative that this is a letdown spot from Alabama. I don't think nothing could be further from the truth. I don't respect that line move towards Vandy at all. I've seen the line drop, and if anything, let it keep dropping so they could give me Alabama at a gift because they're one of those teams that they're still off. I mean, they're finally in the top 10 as far as the rankings go, but I can tell you right now, I only have one team above them as far as power ratings, and that is Ohio State, the best team in college football. Otherwise, on a neutral field, Alabama would probably be a favorite in my book over every other team. A pick 'em with Oregon, but that's about it. So I really think Alabama, again, continues to be undervalued, and there's a little recency bias to take advantage of as well on the Vandy side. They've been putting up points, but that's against very weak defenses. Now they're going up against the third most efficient defense in all of college football. They're going to have a lot of problems putting up points against Alabama. That's why this total's only about 55.5, 56.5, even though Vandy put up that many points on their own just last week. So this game sets up nicely for Alabama to bounce, to come off a win against Georgia and keep it rolling. I think they shut Vanderbilt down for a bet here because I got to narrow down the best bet for the TV game. I'm going to give you the under. Let's go under. We'll grade it at, there's 56.5s available. There's 55.5 available. Let's throw 56 out there. Look to go under 56. And if this gets to 10, I think you should bet Alabama as well. But we'll grade the under 12-3 right now in college football on bet on it. Let's keep it rolling. Let's go under Alabama Vandy. Bama shuts down Vanderbilt on Saturday.
Now, I know this isn't a top 25 game, and I apologize, but my other option was Texas, Florida. And I am so done making a case for the worthless Florida Gators. Yeah, we've already seen that one come down from 7 to 6.5. We know the wise guys are going to be on Florida, but we don't need to talk about it because I'm not going to put my hard-earned money on that godforsaken team. So we're going to go to the Big 12. We're going to talk about a Texas Tech team. Number 11, Texas Tech, heads to Houston to play the Cougars, 7 p.m. Eastern there on Saturday night. Tech coming down, now a 10.5-point favorite. Total 50.5 here, guys. And here's the real reality. We've got Texas Tech coming off an absolute throttling 2 weeks ago of Utah. Then they get a lovely bye week. What did Houston do last week? Yeah, they were in a dogfight against Oregon State. If you guys saw that on Friday night, I looked at that double digits, thought it was a little weird, and sure enough, they could have lost that game outright. But Houston is 4-0 straight up and 3-1 against the spread. Houston's last 3 games all have gone over the total. I do think that doesn't bode well for Houston, obviously, to get in a shootout with Texas Tech, who has covered 6 straight in this series. But if you look at the last time these two played, the Cougars got outgained by 89 yards. It was a much closer contest than the final score indicated. That blocked punt return, guess what? Went that way in Texas Tech's direction, and that was it for the Houston Cougars. I do think this is too many points here. It was 12.5, 11.5, 10.5. I think anything catching double digits here has me looking towards the underdog. So for the show, give me Houston plus 10.5. Marco D'Angelo, you get to talk about the other 2 teams from Florida since we didn't want to talk about the aforementioned Florida Gators. 7:30 p.m. Eastern, number 3, Miami, 4.5-point favorites at number 18, Florida State, 53.5. I had Virginia on my long list last week. I ended up betting them on Friday night, put them in all the contests, sprinkled just a touch on the money line. That was an awesome game. If you guys didn't catch it, I highly recommend going back to see the highlights. Florida State, as Marco might have said, could have been looking ahead here to this one. Marco, they got caught with their pants down. Now they're catching over a field goal here at home.
Well, Kelly, you just about broke the whole game down for me because that was the premise for last week. That was a client play for me. I absolutely loved Virginia in that spot last week, and it was all about the spot. We know how hard it is for teams to go on the road on these weekday games. The home team has such an advantage. One, because of travel, the short preparation time. Two, the crowds are crazy on the weeknight games. They're all jacked up. It's a great atmosphere. You got to add more value to the home field when you're playing these games. And Virginia got Florida State. What made it even worse for Florida State was, yes, they were looking ahead. They had this game next. Their arch rival, Miami of Florida, who is ranked in the top 5. How can you not look ahead? But I got to give Florida State credit. Even though Virginia stormed out to a big early lead, Florida State never quit in that game. They kept coming back in that game, sent the game into overtime, and really had an opportunity to tie it again. That was one of the most crucial, agonizing, if you were a Florida State fan, non-completion that I've ever seen. It was like time stood still as that guy bobbled that pass the entire end zone and didn't get his feet down in time with the catch. I think he caught it like 3 different times in the end zone, but never secured it. Give them credit, though. They never quit. Normally, Kelly, I would say off of a loss like that, we would be quoting our buddy Dave Koken, rest in peace, lose the same game twice. But when the next game is your rival and they're in the top 5, you're not going to have that hangover effect. Florida State will be ready for this one, and they've got an explosive offense led by an absolutely punishing ground game. In 3 games, they've rushed for 230, 498, and 258. And 2 of those opponents were, one obviously last week, Virginia, and they also ran roughshod over Alabama. And you know how high we think Alabama is in the rankings this year with power ratings. So I'm going to go ahead, take this team. I know Miami's done nothing wrong so far this year, but you know when you get to these rivalry games, you throw out the stats and give me home underdog against the national top-ranked team, and it's a Saturday night. We know that, though, except for James Franklin, we know how much that means for having a big game on your home field at night. We'll go ahead and take Florida State to pull the upset, 31-28, Florida State.
And Marco is throwing shade early in the show. You love to see it. No Mario Cristobal jokes yet. We'll see if some of those come to the surface here over the next 40 minutes. VR Steam Room is coming up next. But first, I would love, if you guys love Bet On It, to give us that thumbs up, hit that like button, give us some subscriptions here, because we are bringing all of you guys every tidbit of information you need for college football absolutely free here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. And if you don't like us, tell us in the comments. It's Marco's favorite part. VR, your Steam Room has been absolutely rolling. The train just keeps on cashing. I'm going to let you go. I got my pen and paper ready. Let's hear it for week 6.
Yeah, and the Wise Guy's been absolutely on fire in college football. 1 in week 0, 1 in week 1, 1 in week 2, 1 in week 3, 1 in week 4. And now let's just keep it going in week 5. Here's some of the sides, and pay attention because a lot of the line moves as we move further into the season come later. Like the books get a lot sharper, the lines get a lot tighter, and a lot of the moves comes on information as the week progresses, a lot off of injuries. And finally, on Thursday, pay attention anytime after about 9 a.m. Pacific time throughout the day, you'll see the college football totals get hit. So if you're just spend the day, watch your odds logic screen, you will see a lot of movement on those totals. So let's get some of the sides out of the way. Start off with 316 Appalachian State. Opened as the dog, now the favorite. Took them at +2, took them at +1, and laid 1 on Appalachian State. 321 Kentucky, plus the 3 touchdowns, getting 21 there. 320 Old Dominion, -17, -18, -18.5. 325 Kansas, minus the 4.5 and the 5. 352 Georgia State, +20. 360 Nebraska, minus 11, 388 SMU minus 16.5, 380 Houston plus 13 and 12, 396 A&M minus 13.5, and a total we just bet this morning I sent out as a 3% play. Not a best bet, but worthy of a premium. 397 under 51.5 UNLV and Wyoming. So pay attention tomorrow. You'll get a lot more totals off the screen. And best of luck on college football this Saturday.
Absolutely. Speaking of Saturday, if you guys are looking for more steam from VR, he joins me every single Saturday here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. We call it Last Call because then we take you right up till kickoff and you guys get all of your questions answered. And of course, any of those last minute plays from any of our handicappers on the show. All right, guys, the segment that's been doing really well. Well, the Deli's been doing well too, but the barking dogs have been barking, and VR has been giving us double-digit underdogs all season long. He's got another one for us here. But Marco, you got kind of an under-the-radar game here. Could this have also possibly been a sandwich spot?
It could have been as well, but Kelly, what I'm looking at, this one is an X's and O's situation. Let's start with Army. Last week, they laid an egg at East Carolina on Thursday night. And that was a classic case of losing the same game twice with Army. Because if you remember the game before, they lost at home to North Texas. And we've seen what North Texas has done so far this year. They've been an offensive juggernaut. That was a 45-38 shootout that they lost in overtime. And we say, you lose those overtime games. Sometimes you have that carryover effect. Then they had to travel on a short week and play on a Thursday night at East Carolina. We had a client play on East Carolina last week for that reason. Now, normally I would look for Army to bounce back coming off of a negative situation, and they've got a couple extra days to prepare. But here's where the X's and O's come in on this game. I always point out how hard it is for a team to prepare for these service academies in their option attack when you're not used to playing it. Well, let's start with UAB. They had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. Huge edge. You get that extra week to practice it. But more importantly than the extra week to practice and prepare for Army, guess what? They had the best preparation you could possibly have for preparing for Army. They already played Navy this year. Okay? So now you're playing one of these fluky offenses for the second time this year and an extra week to prepare. I can't pass that up. And then I look at this Army defense and how in the world can I lay points with a team on the road that has a defense as bad as Army's? And when you look at UAB, the one thing they can do is they can throw the football. They have thrown in their last 3 games for 321, 341, 371. And that 371-yard performance, that was against Tennessee. In what should be a barn burner and a high-scoring game, I've got UAB winning this one 34-30. If you add those scores up, I like the over as well. But let's go with UAB as our barking dog. And sorry, Kelly, it's not as big as last week's barking dog. You always give me grief that I try to sneak a Chihuahua in once in a while. But we come with a big one last week for you.
Yeah, Marco, and guess who? Still kicking themselves about not putting them in their parlay. That would be this girl. I had them in my contest. I didn't end up getting to the window with them either. Barking dogs in the Deli, man. If we just agree, we're going to get rich here on Bet On It, Marco. And look, I'm going to give you guys a barking dog, and everybody's going to groan, and everybody's going to say, look at the football field behind her head, and look at the helmet on the shelf, and I get it. Just like on the NFL edition, when Marco says, guess what? I know when my teams are good, and I know when my teams are bad. And guess what? My team has been bad. And I've joked about the Aer Lingus curse, whether it was Nebraska or Florida State last year, and possibly this year for Kansas State. But last week, K-State had a nice get-right game, and that is because I mushed it into oblivion. I told everybody, this is the same team that lost to Army. We just saw this from Army. K-State still shot themselves in the foot several times last week, but I do think that was a statement win. They needed that win. They got Dylan Edwards back under behind center, next to the quarterback. Now we got 3 running backs back there, Blake Barnett included. That being said, Avery Johnson finally capable of using his legs. They were able to open up the running game, and that did wonders for this K-State offense. By all means, this defense still got gashed, particularly in the secondary, several times. But I'm going to ask you guys a question. If K-State, who is projected to win the Big 12 starting this year, and I said back in July, I'm going to give you 6.5 at Baylor. And if you remember right here on the show, I said I liked Baylor over 7.5 wins. This was not one of them. But I said, I'm going to give you guys 6.5 with Kansas State. You guys would have been all over this play. I understand K-State in 1-score games is 0-3 this year. So that does make this a little tricky. But Dylan Edwards brings a lot more to the betting line, and I think we saw it last week. If the defense can get some stops, K-State will keep it here within the 6.5. I also have seen plenty of times K-State going as an underdog in here and winning the game outright in Waco. It's a completely different scenario when K-State is the favorite. We won't relive any of those bad memories, Wildcat Nation. All right, K-State plus 6.5 is my barking dog for this week. Let's keep it rolling. And we've got VR. Whoa. This is the barking dogs of all barking dogs.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough finding a dog because so far I got like 3 or 4 premiums to subscribers and 3 are a favorite and 1's a total. But this is just a case of fading Penn State where they're finally ranked where they should be. Now we're coming off some good dogs of a plus 150, plus 260, plus 270, and plus 410. Now I get it. This is a plus 1,500 dog, which means they need about a 5% of winning the game to make it worth a bet. And I don't know. I think it's around there. The bottom line is this. I've learned so much working with sharp people around me. And the one thing I've learned from Marco are just some of those rules that always stick in the back of my head. And the Dream Crusher is one of those handicapping angles in college football and pretty much in all college sports that works. And that's when a team like Penn State, who has national championship aspirations coming into the season, is ranked exactly where they want to be and has a big game against an Oregon team that if they beat them at home, which they should do, they're favored to do, then they're, reaching their dream more or less. They're, number 1 team in the country and on their way to making the playoffs, possible national championships. Well, that dream got crushed by Oregon. Now I get it. It doesn't mean they're eliminated completely, but that was a big hit for Penn State. And we saw that they were really overvalued. They were higher ranked than they arguably should have been. Defensively, they're there. I mean, this is a top 5 defense in Penn State. So I think UCLA is going to have some problems scoring unless their run game gets going. If they stay one-dimensional and just have to throw the football, I think they're going to have some problems. But I do think they'll be able to run the football a little bit, and that'll help alleviate some of the pressure on the quarterback for UCLA on that passing game. Because, again, Penn State defense is solid. But it's the UCLA defense isn't as bad as the offense is played. And more importantly, I do think the offense is going to start to progress towards their mean. They're not as bad as they've looked. And for UCLA, that's a good thing. Again, they're playing at home. They're catching almost 4 touchdowns. They haven't won a home game yet. In fact, the last time they played at home, they were 16-point favorites and lost outright. If that's not a motivated team to show up and give effort at home, nobody is. I really do think if they show up and give us 60 minutes, the cover should be easy. Will they win the game? That's a different story. Honestly, it's worth a small sprinkle. But I do like UCLA. I definitely think they could keep it within 3 touchdowns, not 4 touchdowns. And the Dream Crusher stays alive and take the 26 with UCLA.
Oh my gosh. If that comes through, I know you said only a 5% chance. That is going to be the barking dog of all barking dogs. And then I'm just going to say, okay, we can never have a barking dog under a touchdown ever again. Like, I'm just going to have to write that rule for next year. UCLA. But yes, Dream Crusher spot. You know what we don't do here at Wager Talk? We don't crush dreams. Right now, we've got a site-wide special. You're getting $500 off a 1-year pass. That makes it $125 a month. Plus, we're going to give you guys a 25% bonus coupon. Right now, you're going to get all sports released, all 5% best bets, 365 days of action, plus an additional 25% off any other purchase. That gets you to right about $4 per day, guys. So check that out over at wagertalk.com. Marco D'Angelo, we've got the Deli, and it is, wow, it has been great. So not only here on the show, but if you guys have missed it, Marco also does a standalone Deli segment for teams that narrowly missed being in the main show Bet on It. And so those are 14-6 this season, Marco. And I think that is pretty incredible. Just for a situational alone handicap, that's 70% for those keeping track at home. So we're going to keep the Deli open. But this one, Marco, this one's pretty stinky. It's got some pimento, whatever that stuff is on it. Because I texted this in my group chat when I saw you put it in the script. And I thought, should we be looking at this Purdue team? And every single one of them said no.
Well, you know what? I like being on an island by myself, Kelly. And this is a classic sandwich spot. And here's the thing. I get a lot of comments, and I love reading the comments. Kelly alludes to it. But when we do the Deli, we're going to give you some ugly looking stuff because the whole premise is trying to find value and finding spots where somebody's going to look past somebody. Well, you're not looking past a good team ever, okay? The teams you're going to look past are those ugly teams. And here's the thing. Last week, we all loved Illinois. We loved the spot. Why did we love Illinois? They were coming off getting embarrassed the week before by Indiana. And in comes USC laying too many points on the road. What justified that? We had Illinois plus the points. Used it as one of my contest plays as well over at the Westgate. Now it's a role reversal. It's Purdue. You've got Illinois coming in all fat and sassy. They bounced back. They beat a USC team. Now, granted, the luster's a little bit off USC the last couple years, but for Illinois, that was the first time USC, a storied program, came to their building as a member of the Big Ten. So that was a big win. But here's where it's great. You got that satisfying win. Now you're going out on the road. But look at the schedule next week. You're off USC in a get-right win after you got embarrassed. Who do you play next week? You play Ohio State, okay, in your house. There's no way you're not looking ahead to Ohio State in that spot. And you're going to look past Purdue because they, as you said, they've been god-awful. And they're coming off getting blown out by a Notre Dame team that hasn't been playing that good this year. They lost that game 56-30. So how are they going to stop Illinois in this one? Well, all they got to do is show up and don't make mistakes. I think Illinois is going to be their own worst enemy in this game looking ahead. Last week, the sandwich spot called to take Illinois. This week, it calls to take Purdue. They're in the exact same situation that Illinois was last week. Give me a live home dog. I'll take them. Nobody wants them. That's when I want them. And we'll go to the window. This one gets decided late. Let's go with Purdue plus the 9.5. And hang around. You'll probably see a 10 on Saturday.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure this one gets to 10 before Saturday. And I kind of frankly don't blame anybody. But Marco, you are right. This is a perfect spot after playing on a team to turn around and play against them. All right, guys, and it's time for Best Bets. VR is going to go up first. But before you get started, VR, please let everybody know what they can get from you over at wagertalk.com.
Oh, yeah. It's been a great football season. I came into 2025 saying I think it's going to be our strongest one since 2020. And so far, so good. Comfortably at number one in college football. I think I'm 3 units shy of already up 100 units and only a couple weeks in. Currently number one in the NFL regular season through those 3 or 4 weeks and coming off a 10-2 week 4. So, yeah, information's really good right now. Again, I'm not trying to push the big games. If something warrants a 5%, we'll fire it or upgrade it. But those 4% best bets have done just as well. So there's the Saturday packages up for college football. The Sunday NFL's already up. Those are only $29. They'll go to $39 if a 5% goes in there. So get it early. And I'll also have a Friday package, just waiting to confirm. Got some strong leans for those primetime games on Friday as well. And don't forget baseball. We started off with a perfect sweep yesterday, and all best bets in baseball playoffs. Nothing small. We just fire. So head on over to wagertalk.com, and don't forget to look at the free picks. I try to share premiums each and every day.
Awesome stuff. I'm ready for your best bet in college football week 6.
All right, I'm going to keep it simple. These power ratings have supported me in having a really good college football season so far, and here on Bet On It as well. And it's as simple as taking the undervalued versus overvalued team, and this is Washington laying less than a touchdown against Maryland. Bottom line, I like looking at the rankings, and even though Maryland isn't in the top 25, if you look underneath and it says also receiving votes, you'll have it Maryland right there in the coaches poll, Maryland right there in the AP poll. Why? Because of their record. But like I said with a lot of those teams that are ranked based just on their record, as the season progresses, that's going to play itself out, and the cream's going to rise to the top. Where a team like Washington, they're not anywhere on the rankings, but they're actually a top 20 power rated team. And that's exactly what I've been looking for this college football season, and that's what's produced profit for us. And in this spot, I think Washington should be greater than a 7-point favorite. They're going to bring a lot of pressure to this rookie quarterback and make him have to win the game. That's going to be a problem. I also think Washington's offense will be able to throw the ball against a Maryland secondary, which is getting a lot of hype and how difficult it's been to throw the ball against them. Washington's balanced enough. Once they establish the run, they're going to have no problem throwing the football as well. And also top 30 defense on the Washington side of the football. But again, it's on the offensive side that they have a huge advantage. And I don't think Maryland's offense is going to be able to put up much points on this Washington defense. It's a home game for Maryland. And I think that's why this one's still under a touchdown. But that's a gift. I think the true line should be much closer to -8, 8.5. So give me Washington as my best bet of the week, -6.5. And if it gets to 7, lay up to like -120, 121 to get the 6.5. But don't wait on it because it probably will get to 7.
Well, I guess on that note, I'm just going to go ahead and cross Maryland off my long list. I'm still looking for that third underdog. We'll get to the second one here in a minute. But first, we got to hear from Marco. I need your best bet for college football week 6. And of course, what you've got going on over at wagertalk.com.
Well, Kelly, it's been a good start for our football season as well. College especially has been incredible. My 4% and 5% plays, 7-1 for the season. We lost our first 4% in college football this year. Yeah, thank you, James Franklin. Yeah, that's second reference to James Franklin this week. But we've got a big 5% going this weekend. On Saturday, I like a game a lot on Saturday. So head over there. We've had a 2-year run in football, college and NFL combined. We're number 2 at Wager Talk in Money One. And I say it all the time. If you're looking for a 1-2 punch, VR and myself, we're like the running back tandem of, the Lumber and Lightning. Okay. VR's the Lightning. He's going to bring you volume. I'm the Lumber. I'm going to have less plays, but I'm pounding the middle and grinding out, guys. And it's been a great combination with the two of us. So highly recommend signing up for both of us, guys. You'll be covered with plenty of action and plenty of winners. Speaking of winners, Texas A&M -14 on Saturday against Mississippi State. This is one of those classic games for Mississippi State where I'm going to pull out the old adage, lose the same game twice. Mississippi State at home last week did everything but win the Tennessee game. They battled them right to the end. That game went back and forth the entire game, went to overtime. They lost 41-34 in overtime. Now, the knee-jerk reaction is going to be when you see this number of 14 points, you're going to look and say, hey, Tennessee's highly ranked, and they played them toe-to-toe. Then you're going to look at Texas A&M and what they did last week. Texas A&M only won 16-10 against Auburn. If you just look at the final score, you don't know the whole story. That was one of the most ridiculous looking games. So before you jump on the dog, as Lee Corso would say, not so fast, my friend. That 16-10 score, if you look at the box score, Texas A&M balanced attack. You couldn't be any more balanced. 207 on the ground, 207 through the air. They had a 414 to 177 yard edge in that game. Somehow the game was only a 16-10 score. And maybe Texas A&M, even though they had the week off and I thought that would have been a benefit for them, maybe they still did have that little bit of a hangover from the Notre Dame game 2 weeks ago, that thriller that they won in the closing seconds, 41-40. But I'm going to go here. They're going to roll on this Mississippi State team. I just don't see Mississippi State being able to stop this Texas A&M team. They will get the job done. They'll build a lead. And like I said, if Mississippi State has that hangover, which I expect, and they come out slow, once A&M gets the lead and keeps the foot on the gas, Mississippi State's going to be in trouble having to force the issue and play catch-up. That's when turnovers happen. This one gets ugly. I've got Texas A&M rolling 41-17.
All right. On that note, I guess I'm going to take Mississippi State off my long list. Yes, well, I know Marco's had a good read on this A&M team, so I will give him that. I got nothing to promote over at wagertalk.com. Just make sure you guys give us some love in the comment section, and we're going to continue to give you guys some winners. I'm finally hitting my stride. It only took until week 6, but we swept the college football board here on Bet On It last week, and we're going to try to do the same this week. I know VR had just mentioned that they played Kansas. I think they laid 4.5, and that doesn't bode well, but that's okay because I think there's a better situation here to play against Lance Leipold and the Kansas Jayhawks here on the road. We're 1-4 in their last 5 as a road favorite, 8-16 against the spread in his tenure there at Kansas on the road. UCF looked awful last week against my Kansas State Wildcats, which we spoke about just a little bit ago. Running this 2-quarterback system is not necessarily the thing to do, but I will say this. They have a really talented running back, and if they utilize him, guess what? They should be able to gash this Kansas defense, just like Cincinnati did last week, just like Missouri did in the fourth quarter just a few weeks ago. Again, Kansas 1-5 straight up, 2-4 against the spread on the road last season. It's already starting to carry over to this season. How on earth are you going to lay points with this team? Again, I know Kansas is coming off that disappointing loss in Cincinnati, but the Knights lost a disappointing one at themselves. Getting over a field goal at home here feels almost too easy, but I do think Central Florida is going to give Kansas an absolute and utter run for their money. As I mentioned, Miles Montgomery, Jaden Nixon should be able to take advantage of this Kansas defense as well. Team to score last wins. Let's hope it's the Knights. Thank you guys for hanging out with us here on Bet On It. Let's get that recap graphic up. Marco, VR, they say thank you. They also say hit that like and subscribe button. Let's see what we got here for college football week 6. And of course, guys, we appreciate you hanging out with us every single week here on Bet On It. If you have not joined the Wager Talk Insiders yet, it is only $2.99. That's going to give you an all-access look here in our YouTube channel. That means you're getting Ralph's TNA. That means you're getting the Deli, maybe some free stuff from Steve Merrill. You also get a $5 coupon to use over at wagertalk.com as well. Over 130 of you have already taken advantage, especially those looking for VR Steam Room on those Sunday mornings. We're going to give you guys all the extra perks. So wt.buzz/insiders. And of course, if you're looking for the NFL edition of Bet On It, it's right here. We got week 5 underway. And if you're looking for all of the Bet on It love. We're talking TNA. We're talking Stock Watch, college football, and NFL. Got the mega show right here.
You asked for it, you got it. In the comments section, someone asked to find out which teams are streaking against the spread or over-unders. I'll be adding streakers to this week's segment. Welcome to College Football Week 6. Bet on it, TNA. I am Ralph Michaels for Wager Talk TV. We're going to look at which conferences were best in non-conference action this year. We're going to look at the streaks, good and bad, both ATS and over-under. I'm going to break down conference home teams and conference games over the past 3 seasons. And then we're going to finish it off with 3 college football systems, all 73% or higher. Let's get to it. Let's start off with our first chart. Let's look at which conferences exceeded expectation in their non-conference schedules this season. I have them sorted best ATS record to the worst. Take a look at the Mountain West, 63% in non-conference games. The AAC, 61%. The Big 12 and the MAC, both 57.8%. The Pac-12/Pac-2, 4 and 6, again, small sample size. The ACC, they seem to get abused every year. 20 and 28 against the spread, 42%. CUSA, Big 10, both 46% against the spread in non-conference games this 2025 college football season. Streakers. We have 6 teams that are at least 4-0 against the spread. Mississippi State, Memphis, Louisiana Tech, and Utah State, all a perfect 5-0 ATS. James Madison and Texas Tech, both 4-0 against the spread. We have 6 teams that are 0 against the spread this year. SMU, Georgia State, Clemson, the Georgia Bulldogs, Penn State, and Sam Houston State are all 0-4 ATS to start off this 2025 season. Which college football teams have been overs? How about those unders? Let's get to it. Overs. 3 teams are 5-0 over-under. Rutgers, Tennessee, and Virginia. 4 teams are 4-0 over-under. Air Force, Florida State, Notre Dame, and Pittsburgh. 3 teams come in 0-4 over-under, meaning all 4 games have gone under the total. They are Florida, Northern Illinois, and the team that may have the best defense outside of Ohio State in college football, the Oklahoma Sooners. All 3 teams 0-4. I will mention some 1-4 teams as well because we had such a small sample size. 1-4 over-under teams, meaning 1 over and 4 under. Liberty, Tulsa, LSU, Auburn, Arizona State, Kennesaw State, East Carolina, and La Tech, all with 4 unders and 1 over. Guys, the football continues to win. Thank you for continuing to follow me, being part of last weekend's Weekend Warrior. Only $49 gets you all of Saturday's college football, all of Sunday's NFL, and it would include a Monday night NFL game if I do have one. I do want to mention this. Last year in college football, number 2. The last 2 years in college football, number 2. This season in CFB action, 14-7, 67%. And I do have a Friday college football 5%. What have those done? How about 9-1, 90%? Don't miss that Friday 5% college football winner. For those that are interested in the Weekend Warrior, college football and NFL the last 2 years, number 2 at Wager Talk. College football and NFL best bets. Those are plays that are rated 4% and 5%, 26 and 8, 77%. My NFL teasers continue to shine. My last 31 NFL teasers covering 2+ seasons, 25-6, 81%. And I will have at least a 4% teaser, maybe a 5. I'm not committing to that yet, but NFL teasers rated 4% and higher, 9-1, 90%, as well as 16-2, my last 18 teaser best bets. That is 89%. Jump on board, a 3-day all access will get you my Friday 5%. If you're interested in Saturday and Sunday, the Weekend Warrior, the clear direction to go. Well, we're now into October, which means most teams are now into their conference schedules. You're going to have some non-conference games mixed and matched in there. So I wanted to take a look at the conference teams and see if there's any significant conferences that have a stronger home field edge, at least in conference play, compared to the rest. So here you're going to see the last 3 years and the last 3 years combined. So these are home teams and conference action by conference. You'll see the conferences listed on the left-hand side. The next column is since 2023. So it includes the 23, 24, and 25 seasons. And then you have each individual year broken down. Well, since 2023, which conferences in a conference game have had the best ATS home records? You'll see the Big 12 is 55.4%. The MAC is 55.4%. The ACC, 54.1%. And CUSA, 53.7%. The independents, we're not going to count them, but the worst teams at home in conference action, the AAC and the Big Ten are the bottom two. The Big Ten home teams against the spread, only 70 and 82 with 3 pushes. That is 46.1%. And the American Conference, 57 and 64 with 1 push against the spread for conference home teams. That is 47.1%. If you do look at the year by year, only 2 conferences have had a positive ATS record for the home team each of the last 3 years. That the ACC and the MAC. So we'll continue to follow those teams and see if these trends continue. We're going to finish off this video with 3 strong college football systems. Ask you one favor, hit the like button. Leave a comment. If you watch my NFL video, one of the charts is because you asked for it in the comments section. Happy to run numbers anytime you guys have a question. Happy to put it here on this weekly segment if it helps all of us become better bettors. Hit that like button. Follow Wager Talk TV on all their social media networks and leave a comment. That's all we ask. Those 3 little things help our algorithms, helps us to continue to do free content for you, both written and on these sports videos. And we'll continue to add more and more content as we get bigger among all of those networks. Our 3 systems. First, friends don't let friends bet overs in Service Academy games. There are 3 service academies: Air Force, Army, and Navy. Since 1996, if you bet every one of those games under the total, you have gone 44-12. So the over-under record when 2 service academies meet, 12 overs, 44 unders, and 1 push, that is 79% to the under. This week, Navy and Air Force. Does it make sense? Absolutely. They are fierce rivals. They basically all run the same option offense. They practice against the option offense every day in practice. Add all those things up, and you have a lot of unders. This week again, Navy and Air Force under the total. System number 2. Away dogs up to 13. So we're getting rid of away underdogs of 2 touchdowns or more from game number 4 and on. So we're getting rid of the first few games of the season. If they're off a 1-point loss as a pick or a dog. Simple system, not a huge sample size since 1990, only 38 games. Those teams against the spread have gone 10 and 28, 26%. And those teams have also gone 22 and 11, 67% over under. So which away dog is off a 1-point loss that we're going to look to fade and perhaps bet the over? That is Wake Forest. And our third and final system. Away favorites that have at least 2+ wins and no losses, so you're undefeated with at least 2 wins. Your opponent is exactly 500 and is off a game as an away dog, so they traveled. Now they're back at home. Since 1991, those teams, undefeated teams, as an away favorite in this role, 70 and 26 with 2 pushes. That is 73% since 1991. Only one team applies this week. That team, the UNLV Rebels. So System 1, Navy Air Force, under the total. System 2 says fade Wake Forest and perhaps look at the over. And system number 3 says to play on UNLV. Again, hit that like button. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to watch this video. College football 5%, 9-1. I will be going to 10-1 after Friday night. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at KelSportsLV, and I'll talk to you next week.
Who's hungry? The deli's open. Hey guys, Marco D'Angelo here with another edition of Marco's Deli, powered by wagertalk.com. Hey guys, if you've been following the Deli, we've had 4 episodes. This will be episode 5. All 4 episodes have been winning episodes. Last week, another huge week. We went 4-1 on the show. That brings the record here on Marco's Deli to 14-6 over the season, the 4 weeks so far. That's 70% winners for those of you counting at home. Let's get to this week's games. I have 5 more winners for you, 4 in college, 1 in the NFL. And the NFL, perfect 4-0 on the show. So let's get things started. We're going to start with a game on Friday night. It's New Mexico at San Jose State. Now, guys, this is a bad spot for San Jose State. They're coming off a game last week, and we talked about it here on the show. Went to Stanford. They were a small underdog, and they came up short. They got us the money. That's all that counts. But they lost that game 30-29. Now, that was one of those classic matchups I like to call little brother versus big brother. And little brother, of course, was San Jose State, and they gave it all they had against Stanford. Now, coming off that tough loss, they got to go on the road here, or they come back home looking to bounce back against the New Mexico squad. I just don't see them getting up for this game this week, even though it's at home. And I just see them. It's a classic spot of lose the same game twice. You had that monster game last week, and you just missed pulling a very satisfying upset. I look for them to be flat here. And I also look for New Mexico with that offense of theirs to be able to move the football against San Jose State. Stanford, not known for their passing game, threw for 444 yards last week against San Jose State. I'm going to go ahead and take New Mexico plus the points here. Wrong team is favored. And let's go to the next one, and that's going to be Louisiana Monroe. They're traveling to play Northwestern. Again, we've got a team in Northwestern that's in a bad scheduling spot. Northwestern comes in here coming off a win over UCLA. Now, before you start telling me UCLA sucks, I know that. They're not a good team this year, but it's still the name UCLA. And since joining the Big Ten, this would have been the first time coming to play at Northwestern. So that was a big deal for Northwestern. The other big deal part of this is look at what's on deck for Northwestern. They're coming off beating UCLA, and they got a non-conference game this week against Louisiana Monroe. How do you get excited about that? Especially since you're going to Happy Valley next week to play highly ranked Penn State. Yeah, perfect. Classic sandwich spot. We're going to go ahead and take Louisiana Monroe plus the generous point spread. They're getting 11.5 in this one. I think this one's going to go right down to the wire. Northwestern's going to get a major scare. I'll grab the points with Louisiana Monroe for play number 2. Play number 3, here's another one where we're going to talk about a situational spot. Now, both teams are coming in here having 2 weeks to prepare for this game. One of the teams is coming off a win. The other one's coming off an embarrassing loss. And let's start with this. Michigan, they went on the road in their last game, won a big game against Nebraska. Hard-fought game. They escaped with a 3-point win. They had a big lead, blew the lead, and ended up winning by 3. Now, that was a tough game for them, but they got the win. Now they're back at home, so you would expect that would be a spot for them to roll, especially since Wisconsin's coming in here after getting their doors blown off by Maryland. Now, if you remember, we liked Maryland in that game. Why? Well, because Wisconsin was coming off that trip to Alabama. You had Alabama the previous week, then you were playing Maryland, and then you had Michigan on deck. Yeah, an Alabama-Michigan sandwich. We knew what was going to happen, and it did. Maryland not only covered as a big dog, they won the game outright. Now it's Michigan that's in that sandwich spot. Coming off the Nebraska game, look at who they've got next week. Now, I realize USC is not the powerhouse that they have been, but they are still a ranked team. They are still a team with a big name. Well, they got knocked off last week, but they're still a team with a big name, and they're traveling to play USC. If Michigan and USC played in the past, it would have been in a Rose Bowl game. Now, this is the first time Michigan gets to travel to USC as a member of a conference game against USC. It's kind of a big deal next week. I'm going to go ahead and go against Michigan in this one. Yeah, they're going to win the game. They're not going to lose to Wisconsin. But 17.5 points? Nah, not with that big game on deck. I'll go ahead. I'll take Wisconsin plus the 17.5 in this one. Okay, guys, going to take a quick break here as I got to tell you about a few things. Take care of business. If you like these videos, and I hope you do, guys, we put a good effort into these videos to bring you some winners, and it's all for free. All you got to do, show your appreciation, is give us a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. Just click that thumbs up button, give us that like, and it helps our metrics for the channel and the algorithms. And if you're not already subscribed and you want to make sure you never miss a video from me or anybody else at Wager Talk, just hit the subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything, and you'll be notified every time there is a new video. Now, if you like the way we break down games and handicap for you, and you want to become a member of my late plays, my premium plays for my clients, got a couple offers for you. You can head over to Wager Talk. Now, we've been telling you about this special the last couple weeks. We're running it again. It's the Weekend Warrior. You can get all of my football plays, college and pro, Saturday and Sunday for $49. If I have a Monday night play, you'll get that play included as well. I don't always have a Monday night play, but $49, you get everything Saturday and Sunday and that bonus Monday night game if I have it. If you want all of my plays in all sports, and guys, the baseball playoffs are going on, the WNBA playoffs are going on, I've got another offer for you. You could pick up a 7-day all access. That's 7 days, all plays, all sports for just $77 when you use coupon code MD77 at checkout. That's MD77 at checkout, and you'll get a 7-day subscription for just $77. Now, let's head on over to the rest of today's show. We got 2 more winners for you. Let's get it started. Our only loser last week was Appalachian State. And we're going to give them one more try this week because it's just a great situational spot for them. Oregon State has to travel to Appalachian State. This one is all about fading Oregon State, as it has been an absolute nightmare of a season for them. This is a team, that got left, one of the two teams that got left by the Pac-12, Washington State and Oregon State. They're the orphans of the Pac-12, and it's not been a good year. They're 0-5. But last week, they played at home on a Friday night. If you're a winless team and you're playing at home and you're playing on a weeknight and it's on a TV game, you're going to come to play. That's kind of like your Super Bowl, so to speak. You're going to try to get the win and get the upset. They were playing a Power 5 conference team. They were facing Houston from the Big 12, and they almost pulled it off. They came up just short, losing by 3 points in that game as a 12.5-point underdog. So you might be thinking, well, if they almost beat Houston, then they should surely beat Appalachian State. No, the problem is that when you come close as a big underdog and you lose, you often lose that same game twice. You're flat the next week because you gave it your all. And this is a spot for them after that monster game on Friday. You're 0-5 on the season. Now you got to travel all across the country, head to North Carolina to play Appalachian State. How do you get excited for that game? You don't. You're Appalachian State. You've got, even though they currently don't really have a conference, it's still Oregon State was a team that was out of the Pac-12, a bigger name school than them. This is a big deal for Appalachian State. I'm going to go ahead and take Appalachian State here. They're a 1.5-point favorite. I think they get the job done. This Oregon State defense has just got shredded all season long. Take App State minus the 1.5 in this one. All right, let's go to that final one. Can we make it 5-0 on the season with the NFL plays? Let's do it. We're going to take a look at Dallas and the New York Jets. Now, guys, the knee-jerk reaction here is to grab Dallas. After all, we all watched that Sunday night football game. We saw both teams go up and down the field. We saw them play to a 40-40 tie. Well, you look at that game and then you think, well, if Dallas could almost beat Green Bay, and everybody thinks Green Bay was one of the best teams in the NFL this year, the way they started the season, you're going to say, surely they can beat the hapless Jets. Well, a couple things I want to point out. They were playing at home, Dallas was. That was a big game, a Sunday night game. And Green Bay has a player named Micah Parsons who left the Cowboys. All right. Got traded, didn't want to play there anymore. A lot of turmoil in the offseason. So that was a big game for him coming back to Dallas. Dallas, of course, was sky high for that game. How do you match that intensity of that Sunday night game now to go on the road, travel to New York to play the hapless Jets? You don't. This is one of those spots where I talk about it. It's a trap game for Dallas coming off that high-flying game. It wasn't a win. It wasn't a loss. It was a tie. This is just a bad spot for Dallas in this one. I also want to point out, and I talk about this all the time, this is the least important game on a team's schedule. And what I mean by that is when you're playing a road game against a non-conference opponent. Dallas, of course, is an NFC team. The Jets are an AFC team. That is the least important on a team's schedule each year. When you get down to tiebreakers, it's at the bottom of the list. I like the Jets in this spot here. The Jets have been scrappy this year. They've played some good games at home. I just like them in this spot because it's just as much going against Dallas as it is taking the Jets. We're going to go ahead and take the Jets plus the 2.5. I'm not going to fall for the trap and bet the Cowboys with that flashy offense. Remember, this is a defense that let Russell Wilson in their building throw for 450 some yards against them. No, I want no part of Dallas on the road as a favorite off of a big gut-wrenching tie last week. Give me the Jets for play number 5. All right, guys, that's it for Marco's Deli. I hope you enjoyed this week's edition. Drop me a comment. Tell me what you like about the show. Tell me if you agree with the plays. I appreciate hearing from you. Tell me where you're from. I like to know where everybody's at that watches the show. And again, if you can, give me that thumbs up. It really does help the channel out. And if you want to take advantage of any of those offers I told you about, head on over to wagertalk.com. You can go to my homepage at wt.buzz/MD, and you can grab that 7-day all access package. Use coupon code MD77 and get a 7-day subscription for $77, or grab the Weekend Warrior for $49. Until next week, guys, let's cash some tickets and eat good at the Deli. Thanks for watching. Talk to you next week.